So I built some real Aquaman gear that actually works and gives me the same underwater abilities as Aquaman.
Why you stop?
This is how we built it, along with all of the science and trial and error that came with it. This design is trash. So sit back and watch as we bring Aquaman to life in the freezing cold. Building a Trident intended for underwater use is a very difficult task considering its weight and its center of mass. This thing is pretty heavy. If you look at it, majority of its weight is actually right here, which is focused on the top. Now, this wouldn't matter if I didn't care to swim with it, but if I'm gonna be Aquaman, I have to at least be able to swim with a Trident, right? Well, no duh, Kaemen. That's where he gets his powers from. Just imagine him trying to swim with only his legs. Anyways, back to the story. So to build this Trident, I use a series of metal tubes along with quick connect valves.
See how this is gonna work, is I'm gonna have a CO2 cartridge that's gonna connect to this ball valve. And when the ball valve is released, as you saw before, this CO2 is gonna shoot out a burst of air through this. And pretty much, once I assemble the entire thing, it'll work like a staff.
So after a few minutes of assembling the Trident, it was time to test it out. This was my first Trident test, and I kid you not, this thing has a lot of power. Afterwards, it was time to paint it and marvel at its glory. I mean, look how cool and long this thing actually is. It's heavy. Fortunately, my Trident design worked above water, but what I was missing all along was a swimming element. So, not so fast, kids. Traveling at high speeds underwater requires a lot of force that cannot be achieved by human legs alone, especially when the water is less than 40 degrees.
Oh, it's freezing cold. Ridiculous, man. Woo.
But fortunately, I had a fellow content creator help me out.
This company called Waydo, W-A-Y-D-O-O, makes them called the Sub-NATO. I'm up on Instagram or their email and their website. All right.
Got it.
Thanks for reaching out, dude.
Thanks, man. Thanks. In this moment, I knew that I was one step closer to bringing Aquaman to life. It's like I could feel it in my bones. After a few days of waiting, the jet thrusters finally arrived.
So they're finally in.
And they were a lot lighter than what I imagined for jet engines.
This is like the giant thruster that's gonna push me forward. What you think about it here?
I mean, this thing is really big.
Let's see how this thing is gonna work.
And after a few minutes of reading the instructions, I finally figured out how to turn one of them on.
Hey.
The jet thrusters were so powerful that I had to see what was inside of it.
See, this is the jet. So basically, this is gonna be the thing that's gonna push me forward.
For the next few minutes, I spent an excessive amount of time trying to screw back on its cap.
I was screwing it on back this entire time.
Well, we off to a great start. Having a reliable jetpack is very important when gliding through water, and the best way to ensure that is to have a steady frame. And with the jet thrusters in, I could finally start assembling one. This was my first design.
This design is trash.
Wait, what?
This design is trash.
So much for those engineering courses.
It's heavy. It literally overarches above my head. Whenever I try to move and stuff like that, it's just a big piece of metal as of right now.
So instead of settling for the design, I decided to change it. I did this by lowering the position of the jet thrusters and adding a harness to the design to prevent them from hitting me in the head while gliding.
I think we're gonna go with this design.
How you feel about it?
I actually feel pretty good. I think I will be able to fly through the water.
So after assuring the design, I decided to test it out.
All right, test number one.
This thing had a lot of power, and I'm honestly surprised that it didn't break through the bathtub. So with the jetpack painted and complete, it was time to order the suit. One of my biggest challenges with this project was figuring out how I was going to stay warm in freezing water.
Boy, it's freezing cold. Ridiculous, man.
And that it was. So to combat against the cold, I searched all over the internet until I found a decent scuba suit and Aquaman costume. Ultimately, the suit consisted of a diving suit, a headpiece, the Aquaman skin, and some diving shoes. And of course, the jetpack. I figured that these combined elements would go on to become the world's first full Aquaman suit, so it was time to test it out. If I was going to do this project right, I needed to find a decent place to swim, so I decided to use this freezing pool.
This is kind of small, but might actually do something. But
So to prepare for this epic dive, I began preparing all of my equipment until it was time to suit up. And once we made it to the swim site, I began suiting up. And must I say, it was highly uncomfortable.
this water is very clear, as you can see. So I feel like I should be able to swim through it easily.
I mean, I sure hope so.
How you feel?
I feel pretty good. So this is what I'm gonna power them with. These jet engines in the back. It's gonna make this work.
You can say one thing to Jason Momoa, the actor of Aquaman.
Jason, if you see this, please respond. I really worked hard on this, man. Please.
And then it was time to test my engineering out. As soon as I got into the water, I could feel the power of the thrusters on my back. It was a surreal moment, but it was only half of the battle because I had to swim. But it was time. I took a big, deep breath, and all of a sudden, a wave of water brushed over my face to the point where I knew I was flying through it. The jetpack worked so well that I could even swim with the Trident in my hand. And the most exciting part about it is that I finally knew what it felt like to be Aquaman. Even with a heavy jetpack on my back, I was still able to push past the resistance of water, which made me go wow. And despite the project's difficulties, I must say that this was one of the most funnest projects I've ever worked on.
My skin is shedding. I'm no longer Aquaman. I'm Kaemen.
Pronounced Kaemen with a K, also known as Kaemen.the.creator. And thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Please like and subscribe.
Yes.